Hidehiro Tadano meets Shoko Komi, a beautiful but quiet girl, on their first day at Iton Private High School. Due to her looks and quiet demeanor, Komi automatically becomes popular, while Tadano becomes universally hated due to being assigned the desk next to hers. Tadano accidentally finds himself alone with Komi, who almost runs away when he talks to her, causing him to realize she actually suffers from severe social anxiety. As she cannot talk to people, Tadano suggests she write on the chalkboard, and she's able to communicate that she wants to speak normally, but is unable to because of said anxiety. She apologizes for wasting Tadano's time and tries to leave, only for Tadano to write his own message on the board for her, allowing her to have her first real conversation with a friend. She reveals her dream is to make 100 friends, and Tadano, now becoming her first one, promises to help her find the other 99. The next morning, it's revealed the entrance exam for the school was a personality interview, meaning it's full of weirdos, loners, and eccentrics. As such, the task will be much harder than Tadano thought. Tadano introduces Komi to Najimi Osana, his childhood friend who has the habit of switching their gender. Due to moving schools frequently, Najimi is the childhood friend of absolutely everybody. However, Najimi reveals they failed to become Komi's friends years ago, the shock of failure leaving them with difficulty being around Komi to this day, though they do agree to walk Komi home. Tadano follows the two and sees that even Najimi struggles to have a conversation with Komi. Najimi is approached by the delinquent Ma, another childhood friend, who confesses his love. Najimi switches back to being male to reject him, but Ma is determined. Komi attempts to speak, but her stammering speech and unblinking stare convince Ma she is an assassin, and he flees. Najimi decides to be Komi's friend for real. Najimi begins eating lunch with Tadano and Komi, making Tadano even more unpopular. Tadano explains about Komi's desire for friends, so Najimi sends Komi to get a complicated coffee order by herself, claiming it is training to force Komi to speak. Despite several attempts, Komi gets the wrong coffee and cries, forcing Tadano and Najimi to apologize, though they both consider Komi sulking cute. Himiko Agari struggles to communicate and panics when Komi begins following her. Najimi advised Komi to befriend Agari since they both struggle with communication. Agari later thanks Komi for scaring her, as it made it easier to communicate with her classmates. In gratitude, she decides to become Komi's lapdog. Komi buys her first phone and is determined to ask everyone for their numbers. She manages to get Najimi's number, but Agari's lapdog routine puts her off from asking. Asking for Tadano's number is even more awkward when Agari accidentally ruins the moment. Komi is elected class president against her will. Sensing her reluctance, Najimi instead has Komi voted class goddess, while the more difficult role of president goes to Tadano, with Najimi as vice president. Komi accidentally calls Tadano, leading to her awkward first phone call, which both she and Tadano are proud of achieving. Komi is intrigued by the games played by popular students, so Najimi invites her to join. However, everyone lets Komi win due to her popularity. Tadano sabotages the second game to spare Komi an embarrassing moment, adding to his unpopularity. But he is happy when Komi thanks him for helping her have fun. During physical exams, Makoto Yodano, who hates to lose, is determined to beat Komi. Komi wins by having better eyesight, being taller, and weighing less. Yodano decides a physical exam proves nothing and insists the exam is a draw. Tadano's score is completely average on the exam. Rin Yamai, a popular girl, is obsessed with Komi and forces Najimi to introduce them. Tadano wakes up in Yamai's room, Yamai having kidnapped him to keep him away from Komi. Najimi asks if she and Komi can visit Yamai's house, and she agrees. Najimi finds Tadano in a closet, forcing Yamai to reveal her belief she would make a better friend than Tadano. She is shocked when Komi rejects her in favor of Tadano. Komi blames herself for what happened and asks if Tadano will still be her friend, even speaking out loud for him. Najimi brings Yamai to give a confusing apology for her actions, and Komi decides Yamai can know about her social anxiety. Yamai is shocked to learn the truth, but decides being unable to speak just makes Komi even cuter and will help her find 100 friends. After a brief hesitation, Komi decides Yamai can be her friend too. Komi is somehow even more attractive in her summer uniform. Yudano is determined to beat Komi during fitness tests, but loses yet again. Komi is unable to shake her hand, so Yudano becomes even more determined to beat her. Najimi asks her to visit Komi's house, and they meet her outgoing mother, Shuko. Najimi leaves Komi and Tadano alone together, but is disappointed when nothing happens. Najimi finds Komi's childhood photo album. Najimi then sends Komi photos of their visit, which Komi saves in a photo frame. Komi asks to visit a ramen shop, so Agari takes them to one. There, Komi manages to follow all the unspoken rules perfectly, which earns her admiration. Omohara Nakanaka, a chunibyo, claims Komi is Princess Camellia, her friend from a previous life. Tadano remembers acting similarly in middle school. Realizing Nakanaka is lonely, Komi volunteers to be Nakanaka's gym partner. Najimi takes Tadano's umbrella and leaves a note, so Komi and Tadano share hers. She notices that he let his shoulder get wet to give her more cover. At a convenience store, Tadano realizes that Komi read Najimi's note and waited for him so that they could share hers. Komi attempts to tell a joke, but she has no situational humor or comedic timing. Tadano is similarly bad at joke telling, but Komi is impressed anyway. Komi has never been clothes shopping before, so everyone picks out clothes they think will suit her. Komi ends up buying a dress chosen by Tadano. Komi then goes to a beauty salon. Maki Karesu, the owner, knows Komi and can understand her, whereas her trainee, Kamiko Arai, thinks Komi's silence is a criticism of her customer service skills. That is, until Komi manages to thank her. The next day, only Tadano notices her haircut, making Komi happy. Komi cannot sleep due to her overthinking about her failed conversations throughout the day, but eventually falls asleep thinking about Tadano helping her. Najimi asks for help studying, but grows bored. After making too much noise in the school library, Najimi is punished. However, everyone ultimately passes their exams. Yudano is furious. Komi scored higher than her on every exam. Over the summer, both Komi and Tadano spend the first week feeling lonely but are too nervous to call each other. Najimi unknowingly solves the problem by inviting them both to go swimming at the pool. Despite feeling nervous, Komi makes it to the pool on time and wears the dress Tadano chose. Komi only owns a school swimsuit, so Yumai forces her to buy a bikini. Komi later trips and scrapes her knee. Unable to enter the water, Komi sits alone. Tadano makes her feel better and pulls her into the shallow pool to keep her bandage dry, then panics when he realizes he held Komi's hand. After ending the day with a water gun fight, everyone heads home. Komi decides to visit the library, and her father, who's also bad at communicating, goes with her and they get shaved ice. Through mostly nonverbal communication, they manage to talk about Komi's school life. Komi finds a book, but she's too scared to ask to borrow it, so she decides to just read it instead. When her staring scares a baby, she manages to cheer him up. Tadano, who's also at the library, notices this and watches happily from nearby and forgets to return his books. Komi then goes to a park and has fun while she's alone, and a passing Tadano is awed by her beauty and again forgets to return his books. Komi and her family visit their relatives, and despite being uneasy at first, Komi and her cousin Akira bond and play together. Komi is later summoned by her grandmother to update her on her life. However, when asked if she likes a boy, Komi shakes nervously, which alerts her grandmother, who immediately discovers Tadano's name on her phone. Komi and Tadano are invited by Najimi to a summer festival. Komi gets anxious as she's forgotten to bring something to write on, prompting Tadano to say that he will help her. They visit some of the various stands and games, in which Komi beats Yudano in a shooting game and wins a video game console. Komi later manages to verbally compliment Tadano's look. While waiting for their friends, Komi writes with a stick that she really enjoyed her time alone with Tadano, only to quickly erase it before he can see it. Komi, Najimi, and Yumai visit Tadano's home, where they meet Tadano's sister, Hitomi. There, they reminisce about how much fun they had during the summer. They notice Komi crying as she explains she actually does not want the summer to end for the first time ever. The semester after summer vacation begins. Nokoko Inaka is distressed because she's from the countryside. After overhearing that Komi is going to buy Najimi a sandwich, she follows her to learn how to order food like a city girl. Naka invites Komi to hang out at her house. Nervous at having Komi at her house by herself, she invites Najimi, who brings along Tadano. They then play a video game, and Tadano manages to teach Komi how to play. On their day off, Najimi asks Komi and Tadano to help distribute tissues in a retail store. Despite a difficult start, Komi becomes more confident when she finally manages to give a tissue to a woman. She then distributes the whole box by the end of the day. Tadano shows up in class with a seed stuck on his face, but Komi is too nervous to tell him. After realizing that he calls Najimi by their first name, she asks him to call her by her first name too. Tadano is unable to do so. When told by Najimi to also call Tadano by his first name to set the example, Komi, embarrassed, fails at doing so as well. The school holds its annual sports day, where Komi meets Chika Natsuno, a highly competitive second-year student. After several events, Komi takes place in a relay race against Natsuno. She slips and falls, but encouragement from her friends enables her to continue running and finish in second place. Oblivious to the result of the race, Komi's friends come to her aid, much to Natsuno's delight. Komi experiences jealousy for the first time as fellow classmate Nini Onimine is helping Tadano with his excessive class president duties. One evening, Onimine is helping Tadano before Komi arrives and offers her help, which Tadano accepts. Sensing Komi's affection towards Tadano, Onimine leaves the two of them alone. She later befriends Komi and apologizes for interfering. Komi goes to a mall photo booth with her friends, much to her delight. In an arcade, Tadano sees a cat keychain in a claw machine and wins it for Komi. 3 days later, he wants to give it to her at school, but she's already gotten one, so they decide to exchange them instead. Komi arrives home from school, where she holds onto Tadano's keychain tightly. Komi's class is undecided about what they want to do for the upcoming culture festival. Komi quietly confides to Tadano that she would like to do the maid cafe. The whole class hears this and immediately agree. Onimine and Kate Atori, another girl from Komi's class, are entrusted with getting the materials for the festival. Atori asks Komi to help them, which she agrees to. Afterwards, Komi reveals to Atori that she's always felt useless to her classmates back in middle school and felt really happy when she asked for help. Komi, Najimi, and Tadano distribute flyers for the festival. Komi nervously hands them to people they've met, including the mother of the baby she befriended at the library. The girls surprise the boys with onigiri. When Komi realizes Tadano picked the one she made, she is elated, which Onimine notices. Komi, Najimi, and Tadano dress as maids during the festival. While the boys feel uncomfortable around Tadano, Komi responds positively to his new look as she thinks he looks adorable. Tadano is later made fun of by Hitomi, who takes a picture of him to show their mother. At the festival, Najimi decides to use shady tactics in order to attract more customers. However, they're caught and forced to provide refunds. Komi, Tadano, and Najimi later visit a haunted house and the school's rooftop confessions. Komi and Tadano then hang out with Onimine and Atori by visiting the various stalls and activities. In the gymnasium, Komi's class is announced as the winners of the festival. However, thanks to Najimi's actions, they are not awarded the grand prize. Everyone later gathers for the dance party, and Komi wishes to dance with Tadano, who nervously tries to lead the way. They are then joined by the enthusiastic Najimi. After the festival, Komi's class head to a karaoke bar. There, Komi receives praise for her singing, even though she's too nervous to actually do so. When it's Tadano's turn, he is ignored by almost everyone except for Komi, which gives him the motivation needed to finish. Later at her house, Komi cherishes the friends she's made so far. And that's the end of Season 1. Please subscribe if you would like to hear more recaps.